One thing I've learned in my first year or so doing mediations is that some people are very comfortable thinking probabilistically, and some people are not. And by thinking probabilistically, I mean considering some outcomes such as the mediation failing, and you ending up in court and losing in court or winning in court, and applying a probability estimate to those outcomes, and during the negotiation, weighing up those different outcomes and keeping them all in mind at the same time. We cover this kind of thing in my Maths for Smart Lawyers course, where we look at the arithmetic needed to calculate probabilities and to calculate expected value and that kind of thing. But now I'm not talking so much about just doing the simple arithmetic, but the actual mental agility needed to keep several outcomes in mind at the same time. Some people don't do this at all. They swerve from thinking about the very worst possible outcome and what that entails. And then in another part of the negotiation, they've moved to thinking about the best possible outcome and are focused on that and allowing that to drive their negotiation. Whereas I think one key to an effective negotiation is if both sides are able to keep in mind different possible outcomes at the same time. And many people watching this might think, well, that's all rather obvious. That's just, basic negotiation, thinking through the best case and worst case and what have you. Badness and Wadness, best alternative to a negotiated outcome and a worst alternative to a negotiated agreement. But I've learned that for some people, this is not straightforward at all. I think it's perhaps a bit like, manipulating a three-dimensional shape in your head. Some people can do that very easily and can easily work out if two three-dimensional shapes will fit together or not. Whereas other people find that very difficult. And I think both the 3D shape thing and this maintaining multiple outcomes in your head simultaneously thing, they're probably things that you can learn and improve on, but it certainly seems to come much easier to some people than to others. Let me give you an example. This is a fictional case, but it's made up of elements of real cases that I have come across. It's a director dispute. There's one director, let's call him Jean-Paul, who claims to be owed money by the company. Jean-Paul still has control of some of the company assets, the company bank accounts and the computer systems. And the other two directors who are contesting his claims say the company doesn't owe him any money. Furthermore, some money has already gone missing. And the other two directors suspect that Jean-Paul has stolen that money, right? So that's the kind of scenario. And what happens as this case progresses is that the two directors who are contesting Jean-Paul's claim move from one extreme to the other. So on the one, at some point in the negotiation, they're of the view, we can't trust this Jean-Paul guy at all. He's already clearly stolen this money. He's just out to rip us off. What's the point of even being here? We might as well end this process and just go full on legal instead. And then at other times, they're kind of at the other extreme. They're taking a very aggressive negotiating stance, which is quite likely to trigger Jean-Paul to walk out and perhaps take the company bank account details with him and shut down the computer systems and all that kind of thing. So by taking a very aggressive negotiating stance, it seems to me that the other two directors are essentially considering the possibility of that really bad outcome happening as zero. They think they can push Jean-Paul really hard, and he's not going to throw all his toys out of the cot. So they've gone from thinking that's definitely going to happen to thinking that's definitely not going to happen. And as I'm exploring scenarios with the parties, the effect of me exploring kind of what if scenarios is not really having the effect I was hoping for. What's happening is that each time I'm posing a question about a scenario, what happens if Jean-Paul does walk out with the passwords to the bank account, or he shuts down the computer system, or what have you. The consequence of that line of questioning is actually to make the parties think, that's definitely what's going to happen. And that's kind of making it difficult for the negotiation to progress. So that's my thought for the day, really, that thinking probabilistically seems quite important for the effective conclusion of a negotiation, the ability for both parties to keep in mind different outcomes and think a little bit about the probability of those different outcomes coming to pass. And some people find that much easier than others, and some people will tend to focus exclusively on one outcome or another at the expense of considering the other previous outcomes, which they maybe had previously thought about, but now their mind is just focused on one particular outcome, and that is driving their negotiation at that moment, and that's making it difficult for the negotiation to progress.